Here we are again with Disney and Marvel singing two different tunes. It's quite bizarre to hear Marvel Comics say that everything's going swell, there's only a few bumps in the road, and then Disney, the mother company, making massive cuts, restructuring, and shrinking their offerings in order to keep these IPs afloat and barely profitable. Let's check it out. Marvel president believes industry is in a healthy place and blames the continued struggles they have on the after effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. That's interesting. We'll dig into what he says right now and see what he says here. He says, in the article, it reads, when later pressed as to whether he thought Marvel Comics' recent sales woes had anything to do with their attempts at pandering to wider audiences, having alienated their old core audience of teen and young adult males, Buckley, the CEO, rejected this theory and instead argued that such talk is actually misreading the general stumble the economy took during the pandemic. And this is what his quote is. He says, quote, I don't think the broadening of our audience had anything to do with if there was some degradation in our appeal with teen and young adult males. If we weren't making the right product to resonate with them, our sales would indicate that, and they're not seeing a huge problem, as he specifies here. Meanwhile, though, on the other end of the spectrum, people acknowledging the faults that they're experiencing, Bob Iger acknowledges that they don't want to really experiment with new IPs at the moment. They want to lean into those tried and true, marketable, market-friendly, and known IPs. We'll get into what he had to say during this earnings call from yesterday. When pressed about this, he, during the earnings call, he says, we had gone through a period where our original films in animation, both Disney and Pixar, were dominating. And so we're now swinging back a bit to lean on the sequels. And so we've talked to you, as you know, about Toy Story 5 and obviously Inside Out 2 this summer. And this was in response to him being asked about what's going on with Disney, what's the plan going forward. And so this is what we're looking at right here. And he says this. This is the list of the movies they're coming out with that he made public here. So they have 28 upcoming films that have the Disney label attached to them, okay? You're not going to believe this. This is their original programming, okay? So brace yourself. And if there are young children in the room, please make sure they're not paying attention because some of this, not so Disney friendly, by the way. So it says The Beach Boys, Jim Henson Idea Men. Those are both documentaries, so you really can't count those as original. There's not really a lot of originality there. You're just translating events into like a dramatized presentation. I don't know. I consider it real life fan fiction, honestly. So then we have Young Woman and the Sea, Kinds of Kindness, A Real Pain, Night Bitch. Like, you remember the Shaggy Dog? That's what this story is about. A suburban mother turns into a dog to enact vengeance on presumably people that make her Karen radar go off. I don't know. But that's the gist of what I understand Night Bitch to be about. And so there we go. What a great story to have the Disney label attached to, right? That's going to make a lot of money. Then they have The Amateur and Elio. Both films I couldn't be bothered to Google. If you'd like to know what these are, feel free to check them out. I don't care. Okay? Moving on, from there, the remaining 19 titles, a whopping 15 of these titles, right? The remaining 19, 15 of them are prequels and sequels. So much for balance, right, Bob? So this is where it is. It's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And I have to ask you, I know there are people that care about Planet of the Apes, right? I know it's a popular franchise at some point in history. But now, when was the last one? Like 3, 4, 5 years ago? There's James Franco in that, right? Where he was, no, that was the one with Woody Harrelson, where they were like in this post-apocalyptic half-ape run world and the Caesar ape was still alive and commanding people. It was quite bizarre. Timeline was really screwed up. It was like humans got some weird virus and they couldn't be humans anymore. They went all primal and stuff. Very forced plot line, in my opinion, to explain why this happened. It was obvious what happened in the original story of Planet of the Apes. Humanity nuked itself into oblivion, and without education and being forced to survive, they ended up going into like this primordial state where they didn't communicate anymore. They reverted back to a very tribalist state, a very nomadic state, so they didn't speak a common tongue or any tongue at that point. They'd become animals without their technology to advance them and educate their young, that kind of thing. And so the apes, they, evolved in the absence of humans either hunting them or making it difficult for the apes to experiment with technology of their own, like hammers. I'm not talking about science and rockets. But that's obvious what happened in the original ape story. And now we've got this contagion that spread around and made humans big dumb. And I don't know, I'm not down for it. I like the original one where like time took its toll on the human race, not some spooky ape fart gas that makes you dumb. But I digress. We're going to get Inside Out 2 as well. Goody goody. Who doesn't want to like relive the magic of like being a preteen girl, right? Being on the inside of the preteen girl's mind. Disney, everybody. This is what they've got. So they got Deadpool and Wolverine, Alien Romulus. Again, Alien, come on. Moana 2. I have no idea what they're going to do with Moana 2. You saw Moana. The story's not exactly like one of those ones that's like, and on the next adventure, Moana saves another island. Her story is about her people. It's kind of like Beauty and the Beast 2. Did anybody see that? I had to. I used to babysit, so it comes up, and it's not a great story. There's Titanic 2, by the way. That's real. John Tron didn't make that up. There's an actual animated movie called Titanic 2. It's astonishing that they're going to do Moana 2. And then you got Mufasa the Lion King, which, as noted by Gary Nerdrotic and the FNT crew, is absolutely soulless. I honestly mistook it for like one of those nature documentaries until the lips started moving. I really thought it was like a National Geographic, like This Is Earth, and they're going to try and reframe the Lion King through like a documentary of a lion cub growing up into like the leader of his pack or whatever, Pride. But no, it's the actual Lion King cartoon story, but with super RTX graphics. I don't understand the logic behind this. Who is it made for? Our kids going to be like, wow, this real life graphics that looks like a textbook that I don't like looking at school is going to be on for 3 hours. Neat. There's like no exaggerated proportions or anything. They're just regular animals. I don't know. Weird. It's that weird uncanny valley space that for some reason Hollywood studios aren't bright enough to figure out. And then we've got Captain America, Brave New reshoots, right? That's if they ever finish rewriting and reshooting this movie. You'll note, by the way, that McDonald's had a toy line come out and commercials come out about Captain America, Brave New World, but they just, there's no movie to go with that. It's just randomly. You want to know why? Because the movie was supposed to go out. Disney hit all their buttons on the marketing board, right? So McDonald's can't just change their toy lineup. They get all this stuff made with Chinese slave labor, and it's got to come over on all these big ships. It's got to get stored for a certain amount of time. This is a multinational corporation that puts out this stuff. They have a backlog they have to clear. They can't have this stuff just, okay, can you hold on to the Captain America Brave New World toys for another year? No, they can't. Their burgers don't last that long, and they shouldn't, by the way. And we'll go on into this too and see after Captain America Brave New reshoots, you've got Thunderbolts with an asterisk because we're still not sure if that's a thing or not. We think it is, but yeah, it's a little more real than Fantastic Four, let's put it that way, but only this much. You get Tron Ares, another attempt to relive the Tron series, which I'm still kind of perplexed by. Tron's a great story, but it's kind of one of those ones that's sort of one and done. It's a guy that had a computer adventure, not playing games, not fighting the games, like Reboot. You remember that series in the beginning of the 2000s? It's from Mainframe Studios. Tron isn't about that. Tron is about freedom. It's about fighting back against an oppressive authoritarian control mechanism. That was the whole point in the movie, the original movie. And the second one was, again, breaking that control structure. Now, Tron Ares comes out and says, well, what if the control structure got out into the real world? Oh, no. Well, unless they can summon light bikes and do all the crazy in-grid stuff they were doing in Tron and Tron Legacy, I doubt Jared Leto, who has a glowy LED suit, is going to be much of a threat to anyone in the real world. So this is, again, another we have this IP up on the shelf. It's collecting dust. Oh, well, people Google this, right? Let's make another movie. I don't know. Who cares? Then they've got Zootopia 2. I'm okay with that. Again, I ended up seeing it because of what I was doing for work at the time. I ended up having to put it on the TV and watching it along with the kids. Zootopia 2, Zootopia was fine. I didn't have a problem with it. I thought it told a nice story about how everybody can be a hero. I think it was a fun story about how the sheep was the bad person the whole time. I didn't see that coming. I really didn't. And I thought it was a good story about how this oppressive, like, I'm doing the right thing character, the sheep, was the one that was the problem the whole time. And that was pretty good. I like that. And I hope that they lean into that attitude again and it doesn't go too overboard. But it is Disney, so it'll probably go way overboard. And Avatar 3. I don't have much to say about Avatar, dude. Like, somebody out there likes this. If anybody knows what the hell is going on in Avatar, you let me know, because I can't figure it out. The trailers are showing me all this crazy stuff, and really all it looks like is just like over-rendered graphics from a Halo game, like just before the Covenant or the Flood attacked some random planet. I expect Master Chief to come through with one of those swords and like slice one of the Na'vi in half or something. It doesn't look like a movie to me. It looks like a video game cutscene that just keeps going and going and going. And you'll note that it comes back up again. I got Avengers 5. This was supposed to be the Kang Dynasty, but now it's just Avengers 5. Maybe they'll stick with that, like the Jackson 5. I feel like that's too creative for Disney, so probably not. We got the Mandalorian and Grogu because people want more space babysitter, I guess. Unless he's got the derpy Gundam suit that was made out of the droid there that goes, yes, 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 yes. You know, that one? I don't care. I want him in his derpy Gundam, so he'll like go around and be incredibly annoying, but at eye level. It makes it so much better. Because who really cares anymore, really? Who cares? You don't. I don't. Bob Iger doesn't. And we got Toy Story 5. That's right. Toy Story 5. Woohoo! We're going to go out and meet more toys because going to the circus wasn't a far enough adventure for Woody and his friends now that they're not even Andy's toys anymore. I don't know. Come on, guys. It's not that hard. Like they've got all this old stuff from the 60s and 70s that, yeah, sure. It's like, bad stuff, like B grade, C grade movies. That's the stuff to go and reboot and reinvent. If you don't want to take the risk in inventing a new IP, go back to the old live action stuff that you guys were making while you were tripping on acid and bring it back to the modern age. It'll fit now. I guarantee you the Barbarella movie that's coming out, if they don't go crazy censorship with it and give you the real Barbarella story, right? Not like some shot-for-shot remake, but something that stays true to the shag carpet, walls and ceiling, and, love and all their crazy... I love Barbarella. It's one of my favorite movies because it's terrible. But this is my example, right? Bring that forward. Go find something that's way, way down in the B-movie territory and bring that forward. Okay? I critiqued you about the Planet of the Apes because it's been rebooted already and it just keeps going. It's got such a weird plot. It's so forced in even to justify a rapid shift because God forbid you let time play out. But I'm getting back into the apes again. We got Avengers Secret Wars. And guess what that means? That means Doctor Doom becomes the new Thanos. I promise you if Avengers 5 doesn't do that, that's what Secret Wars will do for you, and it will serve as an official reboot for this whole mess. We're not even halfway through this whole thing, by the way, so I hope you brought your popcorn, right? Because you're not taking it to the movie theater, I guarantee it. And finally, Avatar 4, because why not? We might as well just keep making these things until James Cameron either gets bored or decides he doesn't have enough money and makes something else, I don't know. I don't see the point in the Avatar series. Maybe you can help me down in the comments about it, right? If you're an Avatar fan, by all means, please let me know what's great about it. I have trouble getting into it, but maybe if somebody brought me up to speed on it, I'd have a little more interest. They do a bad job marketing it. That's just what I have to say about it. But speaking of marketing, Bob Iger concedes that Marvel Studios will be shrinking its output to about 2 series a year and a maximum of 3 films. Guys, just think about this. Guys and gals, whoever you are out there watching this video with the biggest smile on your face like me, guess what's happening? We're winning. We're pulling them back from this insanity. I don't know if you want Disney to survive. I don't. I want a new company to take over and become this great thing. I think Disney's kind of overlived its purpose, if you will, and now it's just an agent of propaganda, and I don't think they'll be able to wash that off. But if you believe that this is good to have these companies reined in and brought back under normality, if you will, whatever you'd like to define as normality, the stuff that they're not having mustachioed fairy godmothers, I forgot for a minute there, mustachio fairy godmothers and all these crazy things going on in the movies and whatnot, then yeah, This is good. This is a good sign. This is Disney reacting and saying, look, we're getting nowhere with all of this programming. And in fact, Bob Iger was so bold to come out and admit this, right? He says this on the call, on the earnings call. This wasn't in private. This wasn't somebody trying to figure this out, divine this out of his words. He said this with his own mouth. He says, we've been working hard with the studios to reduce output and focus more on quality. Quality, right? How lucky are we that finally, Marvel Studios will be putting out quality content? What are we, 15 years into this? Come on. They know what they're doing. They know what they did. Bob Iger even goes on to admit this later on. He says, we're mining an IP, right? We're mining an IP. He even digresses and explains what that means down here. He says, there have been some disappointments, right? He's acknowledging this issue right here. And he says, we would like to have some more recent releases to have performed better. It's reflective, not a problem from a personnel perspective, but I think our zeal, pay attention to this, I think our zeal to basically grow our content significantly to serve mostly streaming offerings, we ended up taxing our people way beyond, right? You remember the people that were with Disney's animation department, their CGI department, complaining that they were working 80 hours a week on She-Hulk. And a lot of good that did, right? A lot of good that's what he's talking about, right? So we ended up taxing our people way beyond in terms of their time and their focus, way beyond where they had been when apparently quality was number one in the Disney brand. Now, that may have been a very long time ago, okay? And he even, like I said, this is the zeal thing. So I really want you to pay attention to this. Zeal. So he admits now that he was green-lighting things just to fill the void of Disney Plus. Rather than going out and licensing in or licensing out the content, as they admitted in the last quarter, that would have been a good idea, they are now admitting that the zeal, the drive to fill the void of Disney Plus had driven them to just create things. And so much so that they stressed the people they had working for them, rather, they're not pumping iron, maybe that would be different if they were, but the people working with them were pushed beyond their breaking point. This is disgusting. I don't know if you noticed this or not, but this is disgusting. This is an absolutely disgusting statement. If I'm an investor in Disney, I am seriously sitting back and saying, what is going on? They don't know what they're doing with storytelling. They're downsizing, upsizing, zealing and unzealing, nerfing, turfing, buffing, all sorts of things left and right, and they have no idea what's going on. Then you have a guy come out and admit the quality up until this point wasn't what we wanted to see, and guess what? We pushed too hard and hurt our effort. Hello, this is amazing. This is amazing. These guys finally have to come out and admit how badly they screwed up these brands. And they're not even beginning to admit the damage they've done. They've just only crack open the Pandora's box of all the badness, right? Because I'll remind you, right? Anthony Mackie, just this March, said there's only so much creativity you can bring to the table because Stan Lee gave us so much content. And this was in reference to the MCU being limited in its storytelling. So you combine this with what Bob's telling us, right? They don't have anybody at the helm. Even Kevin Feige is out to lunch on how to fix this stuff. And guess what it's all produced, right? Guess what it's all produced? A 9% drop in Disney's stock opening hours on Tuesday on Wall Street. That's right. 9% drop. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot to you and me out here in non-trader world, but that's really close to 10%. And 10% is a nice round number that investors don't like to see in the red. Now, this is a very dangerous thing because, as it's noted by CNN, right, it's dangerous because Disney could end up losing the whole basket with this situation. Now, I've stressed before, I don't want them to survive. I don't. I want another studio to come through, okay? But if you want them to survive, this is bad news. This tells us that the investors, the people that are supposed to be footing this bill, might be interested in coming on board. We're not swayed by this. And even so, we're so upset by it that they sold off their stock to the tune of 9%. Okay? If you're a Disney investor, I would like to ask you to consider what the future of this stock is. If you're not just investing so you can get in on this stuff and have some information on what Disney's doing, if you're legitimately trying to grow your portfolio, I would ask you why Disney is part of it. They have not demonstrated enough growth. They have not demonstrated enough consistency to justify your money being put behind them. That's just what I'm saying, like right out to you. You got better odds with Steam right now. You got better odds with Steam with Sony even. They acknowledge their faults in a much broader way. But consider this, right? At the end of the day, Disney is collapsing into the ground under its own weight, right? And I'm not saying these things are going away immediately. That's a mistake in a lot of the narrative that goes around. They're not going to collapse overnight. This isn't some loud kabang. This isn't the Hindenburg. But what this is a slow leak that they need to take care of, and they're not. The leaning into sequels demonstrates that they don't want to take risks. And we know for a fact that risk-taking is how you build these things up, is how you make more money. Look at all the risk-taking they were making in the original Avengers run, in the original 10 years of the MCU. That was pretty great. That was pretty amazing storytelling. Very cohesive, very together. Everything had a place and purpose. It wasn't overwhelming with callbacks and meme references and all this silly crap that clogs up the story. But at the end of the day, right, Marvel doesn't want to make that investment. Disney doesn't want to make that investment. They want to lean into sequels rather than give you something new. And like I said, it's not that hard. You can go back to the 70s. It doesn't have to be new. It can just be stuff from the stuff that was fueled by tabs of acid era of movie making. You can pull that stuff forward. Instead, we're going to get Toy Story 5 and another Planet of the Apes movie and whatever the Thunderbolts eventually gets edited down into being. If you have a theory about how this is all going to go out, or if you have any questions about what's been relayed here, please let us know down in the comments, because I don't know, if you're a Disney investor, it's time to get out. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video. But as always, good luck out there.